Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the most recent episode of X-Men 97. It was called Fire Made Flesh. As the episode starts, the woman we've known to be Jean thus far in the series reads the mind of her newly arrived twin and seems to think that her twin is newly created, but Beast says no, the twin is the older, real Jean, and that the other is a clone who is only under the impression that she's the real Jean. As I surmised was the case at the end of the second episode of the two-episode premiere last week, given what happened in the prior episode, specifically Scott and Jean having a kid whose name is Nathan, who in the comics is not the real Jean Grey's son.
Earlier in the episode, Scott and Jean gave their baby the name Nathan Charles Summers, and in the comics, Nathan Charles Summers is not only Cable, but the child of Scott and this clone of Jean, not Jean. So, are we going to see that this woman who showed up at the door is actually Jean, and that the clone had at some point replaced her on the team without anybody knowing and then got pregnant by Scott? That would be interesting, because otherwise they're changing comic book canon, right? So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
The thing is that while she was in actual Jean's mind, the clone also saw a quick flash of Mr. Sinister, who later visits her over her baby monitor as well as psychically, telling her who she is before remotely commanding her to come to him. She puts on a new outfit and starts messing with the minds of the members of the team with bizarre visions, including one of the talking corpse of Charles Xavier chastising Cyclops. Real Jean then steps in and stops her visions before the clone announces herself as the Goblin Queen and takes off with Nathan. Magneto decides to lead the team against Sinister to rescue Nathan, who starts making alterations to Nathan. Upon confronting the Goblin Queen, the team is put through their paces, while back at the mansion, Wolverine tries to help real Jean get control of her powers before she gets a vision of Scott in trouble and attacks the Goblin Queen psychically, causing her to remember parts of her past that induce her to attack Sinister with Scott and rescue Nathan. But Nathan's already been harmed with a virus that can't be cured in the present, so he's sent with Bishop to the future on the hope that there's a cure in Bishop's time. Jean invites the Goblin Queen, now going by Madeline Pryor, to stay at the mansion despite not being the real Jean, but she says she needs to start a new life just like she had planned to do before she found out who she really was, only she was going to do it with Scott and the baby. Right before the episode ends, someone calling themselves Forge approaches Storm in a bar and says he can help her get her powers back. So that's where the episode ended. And once again, I liked this episode. I was happy to discover that I was right. Not that it was any genius thinking on my part. I mean, it's kind of obvious, right? Jean's not the mother of Nathan Summers. The clone, Madeline Pryor, is. So it wasn't hard to figure out. So I'm no genius. But anyway, I did mention that's what was going to happen. And I'm glad that that's what happened, because who wants Scott to be with an imposter Jean? You want him to be with the real Jean, right? You want the real Jean on the team, not some imposter. Although she seemed to have all her powers, which made her, I guess, just as effective. Anyway, I liked the episode. As I said, I was psyched to see Sinister back. He's a really daunting villain. He's creepy. And so it was good to have him back. And the sequences where the Goblin Queen is fighting the X-Men were just crazy well done and exciting and just super cool. Both at the mansion when she's making them see all kinds of crazy delusions, and then later at Sinister's mansion where she's doing the same. It was pretty cool. The question is, what happens now? Do Scott and Jean continue the relationship that Scott was having with Madeline Pryor? Because the real Jean would only have some of those memories because she was sidelined before Madeline Pryor's most recent memories with Scott were formed. And even Madeline said, which one of us actually married Scott and which one of us, has this memory and that memory, whose memories are real, which one of us was actually Phoenix. So it's going to be confusing, and hopefully we're going to see some of that get sorted out. Once again, they sort of showcased how Wolverine's in love with Jean, and we're going to continue to see that, I think, complicate things on the team, especially if Jean expresses any doubt about being with Scott in the wake of having her whole life upended this way. What's going to become of the Goblin Queen? Are we going to see more of her? Are we going to see Bishop and Nathan in the future anytime soon? And if so, will it be after he's already grown up, or will we get to see him in the future as a baby? We don't know. One thing I wanted to know about this episode is why did they leave Wolverine at the mansion? Why didn't they take Wolverine to the fight? Because, they're going up against Mr. Sinister, right? I mean, yeah, they had to get through the Goblin Queen, but at some point, the plan would have been to go after Sinister. Why would you not have frickin' Wolverine with you? I thought that was a little strange. What is Forge's plan for giving Storm her power back? How long is that going to take? Is it going to be a one episode thing? Is it going to drag out for a couple episodes? We don't know, but I'd love to see her back sooner rather than later. So we'll have to be patient and see how it goes. But yeah, this was another good episode. They're off to a really good start with these first 3 episodes, and I'm looking forward to next week quite a bit. I'm going to get out of here for now. I'll be back to do a recap and review of next week's episode once it's released. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.